dear children, Namaste and welcome to yet another session of our terminology series. This is Ambika, your biology master teacher, right here on this super amazing platform, which is Vedantu 9th and 10th English. Alright guys, so here we are back with yet another chapter from CBSE Class 10 Biology, which is Heredity and Evolution. Many children say that there are a lot of terms in this particular chapter and that it's very, very difficult to remember them. Well children, I will be very honest here. From this particular chapter, if you think about the number of terms, actually, it's much fewer than chapters like life processes and how do organisms reproduce. But probably, personally, what I think is that the trouble comes because the chapter heredity is something that you are learning for the very first time now. Compared to digestion and reproduction, digestion, respiration, reproduction, and all of those, which you might have started hearing from lower grades. But heredity is probably something that you're getting introduced to in class 10. I don't see any other reason because after this session, you will get a very good idea about the terms. And even if you do forget later on, you can always come back to this and watch the replay because all the terms at one place is what we give you in the terminology series. Right, guys? So here is my motivational quote for you today, or rather a positive quote for you. Look at that beautiful saying. No beauty shines brighter than that of a good heart. How amazingly said, how beautifully said, right? Beauty within is all that matters. Everything else is only temporary. Right, guys? So let us always keep this in mind. And as much as possible, let's try and sincerely be as good as we can and not externally pretend to be something else. Right, guys? Okay, so here comes the first term from this particular chapter, which is heredity. Well, guys, heredity, the title of the chapter itself, right? Heredity is the sum of all biological processes by which a particular characteristic or particular characteristics are transmitted from parents to offspring. Transmission of characters from parents to offspring. We call it inheritance. And the sum total of all such biological processes, we call them by a slightly more technical term, and that is heredity. Right, guys? So this is what it is. The family chart is the best way to represent heredity, which is why it's there. Maybe everything related to what you are. You would have inherited it from your mom, your dad. Could be a combination of their traits. Sometimes there are traits that you see which are not even part of their their external appearance or their character at all, but rather you might even resemble your uncles, aunts, or grandparents more than you do resemble your parents sometimes. But that's only because your parents have also inherited their genes from their respective parents. And your grandparents might have other children as well who would have inherited their characters as well. That's why all this comes, right? That's why we say traits running in certain families, right? Okay. Now, what is variation? Now, variation refers to differences. Literally, it means differences. When we talk about variation at the genetic level, we are majorly talking about differences which exist between individuals of the same population. Now, you and I both belong to the same species. And what is that? Homo sapiens. Yet, you know that you and I don't look similar to each other. If at all, there may be like a few features by chance which are similar between two random individuals, but we know that every individual in the human population is unique by himself or herself, right? These differences which exist among individuals belonging to the same species, we call those variations. Not just about human beings. You can think about any animals as well. Like, for example, dogs. They are all dogs. They all belong to the species which we call dogs in general. But a white dog, some of them may be brown dogs, some of them may be really light brown colored dogs, some may be black colored dogs, and so on, right? So some may be a mix of two colors, so many variations that you can see. So such differences which exist between individuals of the same species. This is what we call variations, right, guys? Now, evolution. Evolution, as you know, this is mentioned here only because it's part of the title, Heredity and Evolution. But as you know, concepts under evolution have been deleted for this year. But it's important for you to know what it is. The process by which different living organisms are have been explained to have developed from earlier life forms. Think about whenever I tell you the word evolution, or whenever you come across the word evolution, you have to think about what sort of a planet our planet Earth was when it was first formed millions of years ago, billions of years ago, in fact. So, compared to that, to what our planet is right now, so much variety of life forms. How did we evolve? It's because of gradual changes which accumulated over many generations together, right? This is what we call evolution. So, genetics and heredity would be the stepping stones to evolution. Variation, in fact, would be one key step in evolution. If variations did not exist or variations never existed, evolution would never happen, because life would be exactly the same now and 1,000 years from now. No changes are happening to the DNA. Then how do you expect something to evolve, right? Thanks to variations, evolution keeps happening, hopefully for the betterment of those individual species, right? Okay, now asexual reproduction. This is something we've discussed in the chapter reproduction as well. Now, this is a type of reproduction wherein fusion of gametes does not take place, just one parent is involved. And sexual reproduction would be one in which two different types of gametes fuse together, right? Okay, now DNA. What is DNA? DNA, we can say, is the biochemical molecule which makes up our genetic material. Now, where would you find the DNA? In case you are confused about that, let me explain it to you. Children, in the ICSE class, I think I've explained this several times, but even then, for my CBSE children, imagine this is one of your cells. How many cells are you made of? Any guesses? You are made up of approximately 37, 38 trillion cells. And out of those trillion cells, we are now looking at just one individual cell. That one individual cell, just like any other typical cell, consists of a plasma membrane, a double layered plasma membrane. It's got a nucleus and it's got the cytoplasm, right? Now, inside this nucleus, actually, let me now zoom into this nucleus. Zoom into the nucleus, and this is what it looks like. We would see that genetic material has been arranged like this. Random clusters of thread-like structures, which we call chromatin. Now, if you zoomed further into chromatin, this is what you would see. This exactly is what you would see. Because chromatin is biochemically made up of DNA and certain proteins. DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. Let me just write that as well. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, DNA. Right? This is the core genetic material that we have. And I would say, in fact, most living organisms have DNA as the genetic material, except certain living organisms which have something similar to this, but ribonucleic acid, as we call it, RNA as it's known. Like in the case of certain viruses, where RNA is the genetic material and not DNA. Now, as far as we are concerned, DNA is what is more relevant to us. Right, guys? Okay. Now, what about the gene then? What is the relationship between gene and DNA? Well, if you think about it, children, imagine this is the DNA, okay? The same DNA which you find in that beautiful image. I'm just stretching it out and drawing it over here. Segments of DNA are what we call genes. This is gene 1, this is gene 2, this is gene 3, and so on. I mean, the 1, 2, 3 doesn't really have any relevance here, but I'm just marking it that way to for you to get the idea that they are different genes. Different segments of DNA make up different genes, and each of those genes would contain the information for different characteristic features. All right, so this is what DNA is. Now, what about characteristics? We say we use the terms characteristics, traits, and all of those quite commonly, right? Now, characteristics would refer to those features or qualities which belong to a particular person. Characteristic features or characteristics. So, in general, we can say in a particular species, say human beings in general, what are the different characteristics that you would look at? Eye color, hair texture, skin color, the person's height, the person's weight, body structure, voice, tone of the voice, so many things you can actually name, like maybe tens of thousands of such characteristic features which you would find in every human being. Just name the characteristic. I'm not asking you to describe it. Don't add an adjective, just the characteristic feature. In every human being, in every individual belonging to the Homo sapiens species, they would have some answer, some descriptive word that can be used for hair color, skin color, hair texture, height, weight, and all of those, eye color, and all of these. Those are what we call characteristics or characteristic features, right? So this would vary from species to species. Characteristics, this would be common to a particular species. Okay. Now, when you think about the term trait, this is a lot more specific because a trait can be described as a version of a characteristic feature. Now, I told you that eye color is a characteristic. Now, when I ask you about the trait, Ambika Ma'am's eye color trait, describe it. The trait has to be more specific, as in you have to say whether I've got blue eyes, brown eyes, or black eyes, or whatever it is. That is a trait. You are associating a descriptive word with it. Eye color, black eye color is the trait. Blue eye color is a trait. Green eye color is another trait. Black hair, brown hair, blonde hair, these are all traits. But eye color and hair color are more general and they are characteristic features, right? So an inherited characteristic, I would say an inherited version of a characteristic. All right. So this is more specific, right? More specific, obviously. Right, guys? So this is the major difference between traits and characters. Now, what about F1 progeny? In Mendel's experiments, we use terms like the F1 progeny, the F2 progeny, and all of those. F1, the F in F1 and F2 stands for filial generation. So what does that mean? This is the term which we give to subsequent sets of offsprings from observed reproduction. Right? So this is what we mean by F1 generation. Rather simply put, F1 stands for filial. First filial is what F1 is. Second filial is what F2 is. But literal meaning of filial is what is given here. Right, guys? So as long as you know that parental generation exists, then there would be the first filial generation or the first offspring generation, because this particular population, these generations of this particular family are under study. So the first one here would be called the parent generation. The first offspring generation, because they are still under observation, they are F1 generation. The offspring of the further generation would be F2 generation, and so on. But as far as human beings are concerned, I think we prefer to say children, grandchildren, and all of those, because we don't really talk like scientists in our daily life families, right? Children and grandchildren, F1 and F2, that's all. Okay, right. Now, self-pollination. Now, children, I think I've told you this in the chapter reproduction as well. Self-pollination, the term is mentioned here as well, because in Mendel's experiments, you need to know these terms really, really well to understand, right? Self-pollination or selfing. You might even hear the word selfing as mentioned in some places. Mendel allowed the F1 generation to undergo selfing. What does it mean? He allowed them to undergo self-pollination. That's what it means. The pollen from the anther of a flower gets deposited on the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same plant. This is what self-pollination is. Two different plant bodies are not required. That's the major difference. Whereas for cross-pollination, two different plant bodies are required, because the pollen from the anther of a flower to the stigma of a flower of a different plant. This is what cross-pollination is. Now, it's only after pollination occurs that a flowering plant can undergo the subsequent sets of reproduction, subsequent steps of reproduction rather. Fertilization can happen only if pollination has happened. Right, guys? Okay, now, all right, it's now time to think about the amazing courses at Vedantu apart from the YouTube courses, children, because be relaxed and remain convinced that on this YouTube channel and on Vedantu's multiple YouTube channels, we will continue working to the best of our abilities. We'll continue giving you the best quality content. But then there is a lot more beyond just getting access to quality content, right, guys? Because we understand, being an education based company that Vedantu is, we completely understand that personalized learning, one-to-one understanding or one-to-one connect is very, very important. So even in a group class, just like in your normal offline classroom, at Vedantu's online classroom, in Vedantu's online classroom, you can get a very, very good personal connect between your classmates and between your teachers and yourselves, right, guys? So this is what is going to ensure that you will entirely succeed no matter what, not just in exams, but I would say you will become a much better learner when you have that sort of personal connect, because you can be a part of unlimited live classes with a lot of fun and high level quizzes, children, and also you can compete with students across the world. So what does it mean? You get much better confidence once you are done with a particular session. If at all you thought you were like a really good student in that topic, you will get to see for yourself through live quizzes whether you are actually good or not. So that's like putting a check on your overconfidence, if at all. And also, if at all you were underconfident, this is also a good method of improving and boosting your confidence. Right, guys? Now, interactive replays with live quizzes and leaderboards are also going to be a part of this, because we completely understand you may not be able to attend every session while it's happening live. So even if you have to watch the replay because you just wanted to watch it once again, even if you attended it, or maybe you missed the live session, you can go back to the past sessions, have a look at the replay by clicking on the replay button. As simple as that, right, guys? But the date and time would all be mentioned there, so you know it's actually not happening live right now, right, guys? Okay, now premium handwritten notes, premium downloadable content with handwritten notes of your favorite master teachers will also be in a downloadable format for you. And children, in class doubt solving, outside class doubt solving through other means like Telegram and a lot of others, quality tests and assignments, all guaranteed to make you much better prepared for your exams, guys, right? Okay, now apart from all this, we understand that sometimes you may need help only with a particular chapter or a particular topic. This is why, or rather, extra help with certain topics or certain chapters. Whatever your need may be, we have got a solution for you. That's why we designed what are called micro courses. So children, those of you who are registered for Vedantu Pro subscription get free access to the 5,000 plus micro courses and the crash courses as well for competitive exams. So how does it work? Children, we completely believe that, rather I would say the entire team at Vedantu, there are so many people who work very, very hard behind all that you see in front of you from Vedantu, right, guys? Everyone is equally passionate about the work that they do, and that is what makes it one of the best educational platforms out there, right, guys? So in terms of price as well, it is designed keeping in mind that everyone should be able to afford it. So to know more about this and to give you additional discount benefits, remember there's a coupon code that you can apply, AMBPRO. All right, guys. So this is it for session 2021. Right now, these are the options that you have for a 1 month subscription. 1500 is without any discounts, that is 1500 for 1 month, which means it includes unlimited live classes for science, maths, English and social studies, altogether 1500. For a longer term subscription, it would cost you 5000. Okay, so I don't want to talk more about the longer term subscription. Let's just mainly focus on the 1 month subscription, because I know that people who are not yet registered might not want to go for the longer term subscription immediately. So the best way, as I would personally suggest also, because I'm also a parent, so this is my personal suggestion as well, children. The coupon code you can apply would be AMBPRO upon this to get a discount and get it reduced to 1200. This is the price not for one single subject, remember, for all the 4 subjects that I've told you: science, maths, English, social studies, all together. So calculate the per class price to make sure you're making the right decision. It comes down to ₹6 per session, and that is like super amazing and super affordable. as I would say. Right, children? So give it a shot for 1 month. See how you are able to improve yourself. See how it works for you. And then go on for the longer term subscription. That's completely your choice. Right, children? So go down to the description box below. You will find an option, show more. And below that, you will find subscribe to Vedantu Pro now. And there will be a link next to it. Click on that and you will find all these details. Apply the code AMBPRO. This is it. Right, children? Okay. So this is about it. And for 2022, oh yes, before I forget, let me make that clear as well to you for the next academic year. Those of you who are aiming at the next academic year, here is the plan for you for the next year as well. This is it. 13.2 per class if you go in for the 1 month subscription, that is, and for 1 year subscription, slightly it's going to be less than that, which is 12.96. Right, guys? Okay. So this is about it. Yes, of course, all the comparison, kurkure, solid, masti, masala, and all of those yummy things. This is even more reasonably priced than that, children. So make use of the coupon codes which are available to you right now when discounts are still on. Right, children? Okay, now getting back. What are genes? Yes, I think I've told you that they are segments of DNA. So we can describe them as units of heredity transferred from parents to offsprings that determine some characteristic of the offspring. This is what we mean by genes, right? So we can say that genes are found on chromosomes. The chromosomes, when you look at them, imagine this is one chromosome. Genes would be segments, like found arranged on a chromosome. But if you go into a deeper level, zoom in point of view, you would see it. Remember the previous view that I showed you, the DNA, the spiral staircase, that you can see segments of DNA are what we call genes. Now, coming to dominant traits and recessive traits. All right. Now, children, like in the case of Mendel's experiments, there may be certain traits which are always expressed. In an individual, they are always expressed. If a particular person, for example, has a genetic combination or the presence of one particular trait at the genetic level, some of them would definitely be expressed. This is what we call dominant traits. Okay, so we can say that thinking about it at the genotypic level, as you can see, this is an example. Say, for instance, B stands for maybe black eye color. Okay, black or brown eye color, as I would say. Small b, for example, it stands for blue eye color. Say, for instance, a person inherits one capital B from mom and another capital B from dad. The person is anyway going to exhibit only that particular trait, brown eye color. Okay, because genetically he's got no other possibility anyway. Sometimes what happens is a person may get the brown eye allele from mom and the blue eye allele from dad. What happens in that case? The thing here we need to note is that brown eye allele is dominant over the blue eye allele, and as a result only this gets expressed. Even if genetically the person carries a blue eye allele, only the brown eye allele can be expressed because it's a dominant allele. It's a dominant trait, brown eye color. What about in this case? In this case, this is the condition wherein the person receives a blue eye allele from mom and a blue eye allele from dad. If this is the case, of course, it has to be phenotypically or externally only blue. And in these two cases, it's going to be phenotypically brown eyes, right? So the thing we need to remember is that dominant traits can be exhibited, can be expressed, even if there is just one copy of the particular allele. Okay, right. Now coming to recessive trait, it would be exactly the opposite. The blue eye color in our previous example would be the recessive trait over there. Between brown eye color and blue eye color, we say that blue eye color is recessive because only in the presence of another blue eye allele can it be expressed. But in the presence of a dominant allele, it cannot be expressed. This one cannot be expressed. This is what we mean by a recessive trait, which the trait which does not express itself in the presence of a dominant trait. Right, guys? So as far as Mendel's experiments were concerned, tallness and dwarfness. Remember, tallness was the dominant trait. Dwarfness was the recessive trait. The dwarfness trait could be observed only in this condition, but dominance could be exhibited either in this or in this condition. Right, children? This is what we mean. Now, what about alleles? I think by now you should have a good understanding of this. Variant forms of genes are called alleles. So the way we write it, capital B, small b, capital A, small a, these are the different alleles, variant forms of genes. Now, where would you find them? That's also important to know, children. Now, we know that in a human zygote, or think about any sexually reproducing organism for that matter. We say sexually reproducing organisms are diploid. What would that mean? When you pick up any non-reproductive cell of that particular organism, for example, a skin cell from a human being, you would see that there are 23 pairs of chromosomes. 23 pairs of chromosomes and not 23 chromosomes, right? Of course, I don't have the space to draw 23 pairs over here. That doesn't matter. But remember, they are always paired. But how are they able to form their pairs? Well, it's because this is that individual's chromosome pair 1, this is that individual's chromosome pair 2, and so on. But what forms that pair? Let's zoom into one of those. Children, listen carefully here. Chromosome pair number 1 of a human being. How did they get that particular pair? Because this is a copy of mom's chromosome 1. This is a copy of dad's chromosome 1. So chromosome 1 from one parent and chromosome 1 from the other parent, they pair up together because they are similar in structure and appearance. We call such chromosomes homologous chromosomes. Homologous chromosomes. Homologous. Okay. Right, children? Homologous chromosomes. Now, this is a symbol for chromosome. It's just something that I wrote here because of space constraints. Don't draw such fancy symbols for your exams, okay? You're definitely going to get minus mark for all that. Okay. Now, children, this is what it is. Alleles would be found on homologous chromosomes, members of homologous chromosomes, right? So, this is it. This is where you would find the capital B, and this is where you would find the small b, if at all you got the capital B from mom and the small b from dad. And between the two of them, one would be dominant and would get expressed. Right, guys? So this is what alleles are. They are found on homologous chromosomes. Now, what are chromosomes? I've told you this already. The chromatin, remember, inside the nucleus, I've told you there's a cluster of fibrous stuff, right? We call that chromatin. This is what we call chromatin, which is biochemically made up of DNA. But at the time of cell division, this one single chromatin fibrous strand condenses and forms itself, organizes itself into organized structures like these. These are what we call chromosomes, right? And as we know, genes are found on chromosomes, right, children? So that's about it. All the major terms in the chapter heredity are done. I'll give you a quick homework, children. Write down in the comment section below the difference between the terms genotype and phenotype. With one example, explain genotype and phenotype. Okay, that's my homework for you for the day. And remember, the coupon code is AMBPRO, whether you're looking at this year or for the next academic year. The solution is all there at Vedantu. So no worries at all. That's about it, children. So click on the like button if you have enjoyed this and found it useful, most importantly. And please, 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 I would say, please share it with all your CBSE Class 10 friends, because we would love it if everyone, as many children as possible, could benefit from all the hard work we do here. And children, stay subscribed to the channel Vedantu 9th and 10th English, because in the days to come as well, we still have more than a month remaining for your exams to begin, your final exams to begin. So in the meantime, we will keep putting up a lot of creative, super useful content for your benefit. So do not miss out any of those. Best way is to stay subscribed. Right, guys? So that's about it from my side. Until we meet again, stay happy and stay healthy. This is Ambika signing off. Bye-bye.